So hello and welcome back. It's something like build day 400 and I do realise that we haven't made one of these videos for several months. It's not that we haven't been doing anything, although I will admit the pace of things has actually slowed down quite considerably. It's the fact that most of it's been inside and it's been just standard painting and decorating. So in that respect we didn't really want to bother people with just standard stuff. But now we've got a few things to report, so let's start. So first of all, solar panels, as you can see up on the roof there, those are all now fully commissioned and all working, and we're really pleased with them. In theory we've got a 4.2 kilowatt grid of panels. Each one's got its own inverter, microcontroller, so that's as good as they can get in that respect, and we've got a nominal 10 kilowatt hour battery as well. We've been really pleased with the performance of it. I'll just cut across now and show you a few of the stats. So I'm not quite sure how well this is going to work, but this is actually our Solar Edge dashboard that shows us how well the solar panels are working. So at the moment we're generating about 2.63 kilowatts of power off the panels. The house itself is using 0.43, and we're actually sending 2.2-ish back into the grid. The battery, as you can see, is 100% full at the moment. So throughout today, that's the figures for today, we've actually produced something like 11.6 kilowatts of power, and we've sent 7.1 of that back to the grid. So we really do need to get the our SEG payment sorted out, which is still pending at the moment. You can just see there the production graph versus the uses. Green is what we've been producing, blue is what we've actually consumed, and below it you can see the power in the battery. So we dropped down to what, about 50-ish% overnight, and it's now back up to 100% full. To compare that for just the whole month, there we go, let's scroll down. So for the last month, if it'll go down, there we go, we have been 95% self-sufficient in our power over the last month, which is pretty good. I'm quite happy with that. We don't ever seem to be able to actually get to 100%. There's always occasions where it will actually pull from the grid. The only thing I can think of for that is it can't react fast enough if you put a sudden huge draw onto it, say putting a toaster on or a kettle. Basically the chemical to electrical reaction isn't quick enough, and it actually has to pull from the grid until the battery actually catches up, and then it drops back off again. Okay, to sort of get to those, we've actually made a few minor changes with the heat pump. The main one has been involved the Legionnaire cycle. Now what we found out was the Legionnaire cycle was kicking in at about 6 o'clock in the morning on I think it was a Saturday morning originally, and that what goes on at maximum power for about 3 hours, and it was quite capable of actually reducing the battery by 40% in one go. As we wouldn't be generating electricity at that point in time, it basically drained the battery and we ended up pulling stuff from the grid. So what we've actually done is changed that purge, as we call it, to now actually be at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday. That way we've probably got a load of power in the battery from the morning. If not, it's still generating power, and that helps to actually offset the heat pump doing that Legionnaire cycle. And also because that basically is a really hot water boil, we've taken off the hot water cycle for that day as well, so we don't do two things. We don't heat the hot water for our own use and then boil it again for the Legionnaire cycle, and that's made quite a difference. Also just shifting all of our hot water cycles basically to be during the day rather than first thing in the morning or last thing at night when we're not actually generating power, and that's made quite a difference to actually how efficiently the batteries are used. Right, so one very obvious change you can see is that the big huge mounds of soil that were in front of the house that got dug up while we were doing the foundations and levelling the plot have all gone. They've actually been pushed out in front of the house now, to actually try and start at least to level it off. So at the moment we have our own version of the SOM in front of the house. Obviously we will get round to actually flattening that. I'm going to ask one of the local farmers and friends to actually come with a power harrow and actually tilt it up and flatten it. But before that occurs, we've actually got to get the soakaways installed, and they're going sort of mid-picture of what you can see at the moment. So rather than the traditional old way of doing soakaways, which is to dig a big pit, fill it full of all of your rubble, etc., we're actually using plastic soakaway crates. So we have 12 soakaway crates over there. That's enough to store, I think it's 2.2 cubic meters of water, which is more than enough to take the rain off our roofs. Those will get sunk down into the ground. They get covered in a permeable membrane, then coated in gravel, then soil on top of that. So once those are actually done, we can actually start doing some proper landscaping on the garden. So continuing on the south side of the house, we've always intended to have a veranda running from the utility, which is the door you can see on the far right, along over the top of the French doors that you can see mid-picture. We had originally intended to actually make that out of like a powder coated aluminium metal, but we loved the front porch so much, which is the oak built porch, that we've actually decided we'll have an oak one instead. So they've actually started work on that. The 2 brick pillars are now in for that. One's covered over, and I've just uncovered the other one, so you can actually see the brickwork for that. So it's the same industrial brick on the bottom, which most of that will be below surface, and then using up some of the additional house bricks for the house to actually do the above ground pillar and some slope capping stones on that. So we're told that the oak has actually arrived to create the porch, so hopefully in the next couple of weeks that should actually be put in as well. Once that's done, we can actually start to look at putting the patio right the way around here and round the front there. Now that's actually going to be decking done with a composite decking. We're waiting to get full sign off from our building control before we actually do that, but again that should start in the next couple of months. It's a bit into the sun, but this is now actually the view effectively from our dining room back out across, and as you can see, the first of the big earth soil mounds has now been removed. Right, so some of you may not actually have seen this. This is actually the old carriage house, and what used to be there was a pigsty. You can actually see the outline of the pigsty on the far right. We actually demolished that, and it was one of the first things we did, and then built what is going to be the pad for our garage, with the stone wall foundations around it. Now we actually did that probably nearly 3 years ago now, in order to actually enact our planning. We were still discussing the house design, but the time on our planning was actually running out. So luckily the planning that we'd got included a garage. It's a open fronted garage. So we basically broke ground, dug all the foundations, put the concrete down and did the walls to actually enable the planning. And that basically allowed us to take more time to actually get the house design right. We're now in a position to go back and actually do something about the garage. The first thing that had to be done was the way up into the top of the carriage house was actually through a hayloft, and there was a little window in as well. And as you can see, those have now actually been bricked up. The bricks were actually the bricks we salvaged and cleaned off from taking the pigsty down. The hope was that they would actually match in well with the side of the carriage house. As you can see, they don't match in quite as well as we'd hoped. Maybe they'll actually tone down a bit in the coming years, but at the moment they do look a bit angry. In all honesty, most of that's going to be inside the garage anyway when the new roof for that goes up, so you won't see it. One side effect of that was that opening just there for the hayloft was the only way into the top of the carriage house. And now we've bricked it up, we can't actually get into the carriage house through there, so we've actually had to cut a new access hole inside the carriage house itself that we're going to put a permanent drop down ladder in, so that we can actually get up to all the stuff we've actually stored in the carriage house. So one of the things we've actually managed to get done in the last 10 days is to actually put in the level threshold up to the front door. So these are, I think they're 600 by 900 by 20 mil porcelain tiles with a anti-slip sort of finish to them. They've been laid on a level bed of adhesive rather than dabbed, and they've actually been grouted using a special brushing grout, which Helen said I should show you. So there's a picture of of the grout. These are leading directly from our front door and out towards the hedge. What we've actually done is we've started to knock through the hedge, and we're going to put a pedestrian gate through there so that you'll be able to, visitors will be able to come straight through that gate, straight to the front door, and we'll be able to go out without actually having to open up all the car gates. We actually have the gate, and a local chap is actually manufacturing, putting locks on and getting us some steel pillars to actually mount it on at the moment. So that's actually the view up the new paving, level threshold to the door, through into the dining room and to the dining room table with the view beyond. That's actually the make size of the slabs we've used for the threshold. Oh, one thing I did forget to say while I was out here showing you the foundation pad for the garage was, look what's missing. No more caravan. After 2.5-ish years of service, the rock box has actually gone. It was actually picked up and collected by a local lady and her daughter this morning. So for the first time we have no rock box. As next door said, no more pikey family next door. We're now actually in a proper house. That's really everything outside, I think, so we'll move inside and I'll let Helen explain to you about Order 66.
Okay, so excuse the building closed. We're clearing the garage base at the moment, ready for the garage to be put up on Wednesday. But one thing I thought I really should tell other self-builders about is Regulation-17. Now, it's something we'd never even heard of, and it came as a very nasty surprise to us. Our house is, the bedrooms are done, the bathrooms are done, we've got kitchen in, there's no hazards in the house anymore. So we said to building control, oh, well, the house is livable, we think we'll move in there, it'll save on rent, this sort of thing. And they said, that's fine, but if you move in, you activate Regulation-17, and it means from the date that you move in, you have 8 weeks in which to get building control sign-off. We'd never heard of that. We hadn't read it in any books, any magazines, not seen it online anywhere, and we were nowhere near ready to get sign-off, because getting trades into quote, getting them to accepting the quote, getting them to turn up, you can't do all of that within 8 weeks. So we needed things like the level threshold done. There's too much of a drop by the back door, so the soil level needs building up. There's a sink that still needs putting in downstairs. And a list of other comparatively small jobs, but we needed trades to do them, and we couldn't get that done within the 8-week time frame. So we agreed with building control that we weren't moving in, we were actually going to be staying in our caravan that we have on site, and that then wouldn't trigger the Regulation-17. We've now sorted all the trades, got them to say start dates, and some of the work is now started, so we are happy enough now to tell building control that we have moved in and the 8-week time frame has started. Now we said, well, what's the point? Why do we have this Regulation-17? And they said, if you don't get sign-off within the 8 weeks, they wash their hands of us. So our building control contract with them finishes, we then have to go to the council, and the council would then take us on as a retrospective building control. So we would then have to apply for building control retrospectively, and with all the extra costs and paperwork associated with that. So I just wanted to tell people about it, because a lot of people have said they've never heard of it. A lot of people haven't had it applied to them by their building control, but just be a little aware that it is out there, and it's a very nasty surprise.
So inside we've finally actually got the staircases fully finished. So they've come back and actually fitted the kneel caps on top of all of the banisters. So the likes of these here, let's have a close look at one of those. Very simple, just capping them off. They actually feel really great under the hand though. So the other bit just done on the stairs is they've actually run this edging all the way along the edge of the stairs to cover up the plasterboard underneath, and again another nice knurled cap on there to actually fit it flush with the ceiling, so it just marries it in nicely along the plasterboard that we have underneath the stairs. Yeah, it's starting to look a little more homely. So the last time you actually saw that picture, it was sitting upstairs just propped up against the wall, and now what we've actually done is put it on the wall behind the dining table. So we're actually starting to get a bit more furnishing in. As well as that, there's actually now a new mirror over there. That came via my work actually for what's called kudos points. So I collected enough kudos points that we could get a John Lewis designer mirror. So it fits really nicely just there. So we thought this might actually be a gimmick, but we really love. This is Huey, who is Huey the Hoover, our robot Hoover. We let him loose about twice a week, and he's been really brilliant at actually just keeping the floors swept and mopped. It's actually got a mopping function as well as a sweeping function. So he trolls off around the 100 odd square metres of tiled floor we've actually got here, and basically keeps it clean for us. He's just finding his location at the moment. There he goes. We actually just picked him up off Amazon. It's actually a Shellbot SL60 if anybody's interested.